Hey everybody, this is going to be fun. This is your introductory video for using pen and ink. We have a few things just to get started, so I'm going to get right into this. Things you see in front of me, I have an apron here. Remember, the ink spills on your clothes. It's going to stain your clothes. It's really not going to, it's not very likely to come out. Although if something super bad happens, somebody did spill some in a white carpeting once, and they did take it to a professional somebody, and they did finally get it out, but it cost hundreds of dollars. So we don't want that to happen. So we have a nice solid surface here. I've removed things away from me in case I do spill. By the way, Windex and a lot of cleaners, if I do spill on this type of a surface, a cleaner will clean it up. So that's nice. To tell you the truth, I buy the cheaper ink. Ink is, it always says it's waterproof, but the slightly lower grade is easier to clean up with. And so that's why I actually prefer it. The nicer the ink, the more it's made up of the natural ingredients, which is kind of, if you think of the yucky leaves that turn black underneath a bush, if you ever see stuff starting to compost, that's basically what India ink, where it comes from. It's like made from, naturally based from leaves. Anyway, so the more natural it is, the more kind of gooey it is. So the higher end stuff might be more expensive. I'm just gently, I haven't opened this yet, I'm just gently going to stir it because sometimes it settles in the bottom. You want to be really careful when you do this, but you know, it hasn't been used before, and so I'm just gently shaking it up. Another thing I'm going to do is my 3 nibs that came in the baggie. These are nibs. They have a surface on them when they're brand new to keep them from getting rusty or anything. So you need to very gently take them over to the sink and add a little soap. Just gently wash them off and then dry them again. I've already done this. So stop the video. Otherwise the ink, it tends to resist the ink at first. It's a little frustrating. So you want to do that. I want to point out that this is the basic drawing nib. I'll hold it up close, the one that looks like this. And if you look at this carefully, if you push on it gently, you'll notice that there's a split in it that opens up. The ink sits under here and kind of like gravity just holds it there. But as you're drawing, you can push a little bit on it. It's got a couple splits on the side. It's split in the middle. It'll let out more ink and draw like a little bit of line variety. So it's not broken. It's supposed to be like this. If it ever separates or anything, just try and bend it, get it back together, or you might have to come by school or an art store and get another one from me. These two are specialized nibs. I'll talk about them a little bit later. So just, I had this warning again, just make sure you're on a good surface. There's no carpeting. You have maybe an apron on. So we want you kind of doing things so you're all kind of eliminate as many options as possible. I have some just regular copy paper right here because we're going to practice just drawing a little bit with our ink before we start working on the worksheets. So this is just cheap copy paper. Okay, I'm now going to carefully open this. Wow, the lid's on kind of tight. So carefully open this because it gets a little bubbly when you stir it like I did. And you can see the ink's pretty full. It's brand new. All of yours are brand new. So we have a pen holder. You take the nib that I said is your normal drawing nib. There's a little kind of a circle at the top of the pen holder, and you just slip this into the circle until it's snug. Don't put it in, it's not going to fall out on you. Don't put it in so tight that you can't get it out again, but put it in snug enough so it's not going to fall out while you're drawing, okay? Because you are going to need to pull it out again later. So this is just called a pen holder. One thing I want to advise you right off the start, you want to keep this clean because your fingers are obviously going right here. So you don't want to dip so far into the ink that it gets ink on the pen holder and it's going to get in there and you just have a big mess. So by the way, when you do dip any of these pens, you only dip as far as the widest part of the nib. So right there on this one, you know, right here on this one, they all kind of have a widest part. That's how far you dip it in. So you never dip it till you get all the way down to the bottom. So a couple things to get started. Drips are a problem. So when I dip my pen in, I only dip it in so far, and then I always go like this on the side. You always tap it on the side. Otherwise, sometimes you get an extra large amount of ink, and then you don't even know that you have it with you carrying it over. See, I've already washed mine, but you can see it's resisting the ink just a little bit. Come on, you want to get some more ink than that. Tap it a couple times. As I start drawing, the cup of the nib is kind of like this, so we're pulling it down towards us. Now you guys are right-handed, most of you, so you're going to hold it like this with the cup pointed down, and you're pulling the pen towards you. The pen is sharp, so right-handed. I'm switching over to my left hand. Well, normally I draw like this left-handed. If you're left-handed, you have to turn your hand like I do and change how you hold the pen. You have to hold it this way. And then you're gently pulling it towards you. You never push it. When you push it, it gets stuck in the paper and makes scratchy feelings and it's resistant, and eventually it'll get stuck and snap and spread all over. So what you're doing, see, I dipped it again up to the middle point, tapped the side, and then any type of motion I'm doing, I'm gently pulling it towards me. So sometimes to draw something like a circle, I would have to use the pen and make two different strokes to make my circle. Does that make sense? So if I were to write my name, I'm going to turn it a little bit, I have to keep starting over. So I've always kind of got the point up and I'm not pulling it down towards me. When you run out of ink, get more, tap the side, get more ink. So lines that you used to do maybe one at a time, you're now maybe having to make two strokes. I'm just showing you this because it's more the correct way to do it. Anyway, so on this scratch paper, just fool around with it a little bit. What's wonderful about ink, it's very, very dark, it's very specific. You can do tiny little details and you can really enjoy playing with it. I'm drawing a person with crazy hair right now. Because it used to be camera ready, it was used a lot for lettering back before computers were so important. There's a long, long history with ink in Asia. It's also used strongly, of course, with a brush instead of a pen. But it was, predates the pencil by many, many hundreds of years, and it was a major writing instrument for a really long time. And then they actually used to cut these out of like natural things, like a big bird, a feather. They would cut the nib from like a turkey, or you see the fancy ones, from an ostrich or something in the old paintings. And then with the Industrial Revolution, they were able to cheaply make lots and lots of these. So it all changed with that. And so you can come up with them. And then, of course, figuring out all kinds of different ways to make different nibs. And the nibs all do different things. So anyway, nowadays it's used primarily just for art. There's other things you can do, like with your computer, or the really nice markers that we have that make all kinds of things that are, a little bit easier than working with the pen and ink. So the pen and ink, the problem is, oh, I made a mistake. You're never going to get rid of that. If I tried to mush it off or something, it just got worse, right? So it's permanent. And then you don't want to use any type of whiteout on this, like Mr. Whiteout here. By the way, go ahead and be practicing. Don't use whiteout. It looks like you just stuck a piece of gum on your paper. It's like it doesn't look good. It doesn't match. You just have to kind of embrace your mistakes and work with them. See, the last time I dipped in, I was going really fast. I didn't tap it here, and I got this wider line I didn't want. Okay, once you've fiddled around on the paper, you're getting used to it. You always keep it like this. You gently pull it towards you or glide it along, and you never push. If it makes a sound, you're doing something wrong. You need to stop, because it's digging into the paper. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, so like I said, wonderful history all over the world with ink, is we're going to work on these packets. And the reason we're working on these packets is our assignment coming up is going to be very detailed, and I want you to really get used to the pen and ink before you work on it, and I don't want you to get frustrated. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to be working our way through things. On mine, I just used a highlighter. Where you see little drawings of things and extra lines stuff, you don't have to draw the words in. You're just drawing the lines in. So to get started, how do I make horizontal lines? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 of them. So right down here in this space, I'm going to make 9 lines, just like I see in the drawing. 6, maybe just 11, 7, running out of ink. So maybe I'll go 8, 9, and maybe just add another one because I ran out. Okay, so then I've now drawn that. Then I keep going through and practicing lines going different directions. This one's a little harder for me. I have to pull gently down for these. I have to work this a little bit harder. Anyway, in practicing these, you're just copying this, you copy down here. Don't draw like 3 of them when it shows 9, because you're going to lose credit if you don't do everything as you see it. Okay, this next one down here, so you can do all the rest of it. So, all right, finish. I'm going to just talk you through the worksheet and show you how to do each of the different things. The next one, you can see where you see I'm always tapping. You have heavier lines and lighter lines, and you may not get the same amount of difference here. You're going to have to do this one all around these outside parts because it doesn't quite fit. I'm going to start with this one. So if I push hard at the beginning and then lighten up with my line. Harder, lighten up. So you're going to find certain angles are going to be easier for you, and some of your lines might look better than other lines. I still haven't perfected it on this one. There's 8 of them. So push hard, lighten up, hard, lighten up. And see, I got that double line there. That means I just pushed too hard with my pen. So I did it again. A little hard, and then lightening up. Then you're going to do one here where you go lighter, harder, lighter. What I don't want you to do is go back into them, and sometimes I have there, I did it. Sometimes I have students and they'll like draw it, and then fill in the middle here. That's not the point. The point, don't draw it. The point is try and do that with one stroke so you can have some variations. So using the margins and all this space down here, you're going to draw all of these. When I'm grading it, I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 12 different ones, and I'm going to look that you tried each one of the different ones. So you finish that on your own as well. On the next page, you're just trying some lines that are kind of wiggly or doing some different things. And sometimes you have just the same amount of pressure on the, on the pen. Sometimes you push down harder and then get lighter and wiggle at the same time. A little trickier, but you're going to try all these different things. Do each one. If it shows 6 lines, draw 6 lines. And then this one's with a ruler. You don't want to use an actual ruler because then you get ink on your ruler, but it has you, if your line is exactly the same, that's boring. So it's suggesting that you try some irregular lines where they change up a little bit, and that makes a much more interesting line. So that's the point of that one, having some sensitivity to your lines. So you're going to copy those 4 things right here so it's real obvious when I'm grading it for you. Down here, just going to practice making circles. So like for me, this direction here is pretty natural. So I have 4, 5, need a little more ink. How many does it show? 6, I need 1 more. But going in the other direction is a little bit less natural. So I'm just going to copy what I'm seeing down on the page. Our nibs are brand new. After you've used them a few times, they'll kind of, you'll get the feel of them. Also, what's pretty cool, if you look at these little pictures, it shows you when you're supposed to be pushing hard. So you pushed hard and that the brake and the nib opened up and you got those heavier lines. So anyway, you're just going to copy this one, practice some circles in different directions, but you're going to need to draw 2 lines for a circle to do it correctly. So kind of getting used to how that works. Here on this page, just some more shapes, getting used to how shapes work. You know, different directions of lines, and then here again with the pushing harder, you know, letting it get, that one's hard for me to see. I'll see if I like this one better. Anyway, you're going to copy what you see and then see how well you can do each one. So you're going to go through every section, draw all those lines you can see, and as much as it matches this, the easier it's going to be for me to grade. Down here we have different textures. So this is just like a layer, like how do you do shading with pen and ink? You either draw or you don't draw. So here you're going to practice. Here you see the lines just getting closer and closer together. Here you see lines doing that as well, only they're thicker, heavier pressure, and there's kind of less lines. So that's one way of shading. This is one way of shading. This is just hatching and cross hatching. So, you know, like this, and then you know, crossing it, and then so on, with angles and so on. But you can do a better job, but that's what's happening on that one. And then this one, a lot of times people ask me, you know, what is that? It's kind of like they see some simple lines in here, but what they've kind of done is a little bit of wiggly scumbling to get that texture going, and then less and less and fading it out. So you're just going to kind of build this one up with some kind of wiggly lines until you start to get it to look like that, and then you're going to kind of fade it out until you get this. So this is a more regulated way of doing shading, and this one's a little looser, and you could, you know, since it's a scumble, there's, you know, tons and tons of ways of doing that. Okay, so that's, so all this practicing is really going to help you get really good at this and feel comfortable and be able to really work on your stuff. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch nips. So I'm doing this faster than you guys should be able to do this. I just wanted to show you the next nip. So you would be still working on those practices. What I'm going to do is I would probably wash this first, but I'm being on the video, I'm not going to. Take something like a paper towel. Now gently pull the nib out, and then make sure you're washing in between every time you use it so it stays nice and clean. I'll wash that when I'm done. And then I want you to find the nib. It says C3, also mentions it up here, C3, and it's straight across right here, so it's flat in one way and is wide in another way. We're going to put this nib in. Snug, but you want to be able to get it out again. Boy, it really went in there. Yeah, okay, I can get it out. And then you're going to do the same thing. You dip this nib in. This nib has more pieces to it, and you get a lot more ink on this. So this nib, you can draw a straight line or a thicker line just by turning it. And so this nib, it's kind of fun. Play around with it on this page if you want to. But this is how they do that really fancy lettering. So the first page here, you're just going to practice the lettering. Now I'm left-handed, so it's going to be hard for me to do these angles. If you're left-handed, you probably want to, you know, for a right-handed person, see how the angles are perfect. For a left-handed person, technically, you would switch to a left-handed pen. So I'm just going to try drawing it right-handed, but it's not as pretty. I'm gonna have to flip it. So anyway, you're gonna follow through all these pretty little lines. I think, okay, with my left hand. So right-handed person, you just follow. See where these little lines go like this? So if it's chiseled like that, like I'm making the F down, I'm not right-handed. So you get these nice little breaks there and the nice straight lines. But since I'm am left-handed, I think I'm going to turn the paper so I can get that angle and see if I do better here on the G. This is one of those demos I'm just not real excited about. Okay, I'm going to move here to another letter that I like better. Let's try the U. Okay, so coming down here and then here. So being left-handed, I just changed the angle of the paper and I did a lot better. Right-handed person, you should be able to get these corners and angle things just right. The thing with calligraphy is don't wiggle your thing around. You should always have it the same angle, about a 45-degree angle, and think of it like you're playing tennis. You kind of lock your wrist and you're always drawing the letters like this. So the right-handed person, this should work really well. Just draw right below. Left-handed person, you know what, like I did, just turn the paper to an angle and then keep your pen locked in position to keep the paper at the same angle. Probably draw from here down if you're left-handed. It's a little bit of a chore. There's so many types of calligraphy, and people usually modify it and come up with their own kind of style. We're not going to do a calligraphy assignment, so I just wanted you guys to get to practice. After the practice page, then we have a page where we're just going to practice these letters. People usually really enjoy this. So I'm going to turn it again. But right-handed people, you just copy the letters right below. Left-handed person, let's try it. I'll try the D. So we go up. And you want to be as consistent as you can possibly be. So something like that. Some of you are going to really do a beautiful job. I've seen lots of you. I would say at least a third of the class, it's going to be like you're great at this. You're just naturally great at this. And then some of you are going to struggle a little bit. That was a pretty line. I'm more, it's not quite a natural thing for me, as you can see. But here I'm drawing a little bit more, and then some of the letters will come out really pretty. So left-handed person, you're going to have to change the angle of the paper. Remember, try to lock this in like you're doing tennis, and that's how it works. Okay, the very last page, you can do the whole sheet. You need to be graded, you know, on points for each sheet and so on. The very last page, you don't even draw anything. I'll write on here, do not draw. I just wanted you to see a reference of the different nibs that are available. You can go out and buy these things. Our other nib we didn't even use is down here. This is a B nib. It has a little dot on it, and so you can make these thick, consistent lines that don't change, like the lines we were just drawing. So it's kind of a fun, when we get to working on the project, you need to fill in large areas or you want some wider lines. So just for fun, I don't think you'll use this nib all that often, but I wanted you to have another option. So these are just the different nibs, and depending on what's on the tip, that's what you get. And there's actually quite a few variations on this nib too. This is just like the most popular one. Well, thank you very much. I hope this is helpful.